Namaste. Welcome to the Hindu Parenting Podcast. Hinduism and ritual are inseparable, but in recent times, ritual has acquired a negative connotation, and many Hindus have become fond of identifying themselves proudly as spiritual but not religious. Today, we'd like to explore the link between spiritual sadhana and rituals, if any. Are meditation and rituals different? Is meditation superior, as is commonly believed? Is there a role for the homa or the Havan in one's spiritual path? We have just the right person to answer these questions. Shri PVR Narasimha Rao has a BTech from IIT Madras and a master's from Rice University, US, and works as a senior engineering manager at a US semiconductor company. He is a Jyotish researcher, author, and teacher, and created a popular free Jyotish software. He is also a Sanskrit scholar, philosopher, and teaches homa and other rituals. Namaskaram, Narasimha Rao Garu. It's an honor to host you on our podcast today.
Namaskaram, Rekha Garu, and all the audience of the Hindu Parenting Podcast.
Well, we are really lucky to have you address a very important topic for all of us. So today there's a lot of confusion among many Hindus. People look down on all forms of ritual as meaningless superstition and little more than mumbo jumbo. The modern Hindu asks, why should we engage in any rituals? Isn't it better to just meditate and reach the same goal?
If we use the word ritual has a lot of connotations. Actually, there are two reasons for this. One is, over the last few centuries, the other religions that have invaded India have turned various Hindu practices into something that's looked down upon. And they did this with the various pagan religions also of Europe. When Christianity and Islam took over Middle East and Europe in the old days, various pagan practices were downplayed as something really dumb. And the modern religions of Kali Yuga were portrayed as enlightened religions. And the same playbook was used when they came to India, and various Hindu practices were looked down upon, they were downplayed, and the practices of Islam and Christianity were portrayed as things that are more enlightened. And subconsciously, over the centuries, this basically affected the Hindu psyche, the Indian psyche, and Hindus started becoming less confident of their own practices. Also, there is something in the word that is used. The Sanskrita word for ritual is, you either use the word sadhana to cover various practices, spiritual practices, or you use the word karma as in karma kanda or nicha karma. Nicha karma is a prescribed rituals that you do on a regular basis. So karma literally means action. And sadhana, the word sadhana means accomplishment, accomplishing something, accomplishing a goal, having a goal and a means to accomplish the goal. On the other hand, if you use the word ritual, it comes from the Latin root writers, which basically means just a custom, something that you just do, a habit, like that basically. Something that is may or may not be logical, may or may not have basis. It is something that you just do. So slowly over time, that word even acquired further connotation of, oh, it's just a ritual. I don't want to do it. It's just a ritual, like that basically. If somebody is told to do something, you say, what a ritual. Like that, it acquired negative connotation. This is why, instead of using English words which may have some connotations and also which may develop some connotations over time, it's better to use the original Sanskrita word. If you say sadhana, it means accomplishment. And secondly, you said people think that rituals are a meaningless superstition and meditation is basically better. Let's first talk about ritual. Ritual is not necessarily just doing a puja or a homa or havan or certain kind of practices. In the Hindu way of living, everything that you do is a ritual. Suppose you eat, you chant a shloka, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmayavatena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina, and then you eat. You basically pay your respect to the food that you eat, and then you eat the food. What is the meaning of it? Why did you turn it into a ritual? The idea is the food is also Brahman. This food is Brahman. The Jataragni, the digestive fire inside my body, to which I am offering this food, is also Brahman. And I, who is offering this food to that Jataragni, is also Brahman. And this food finally will reach Brahman when it is digested. Like that, you are basically thinking that instead of just theoretically saying Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, and then whenever you are doing something, some action, look at the object as something that you are enjoying, and look at yourself as somebody who's enjoying and feeling proud of it. You basically instill that sense of this is also Brahman, I am also Brahman, and for the survival of this Brahman, that Brahman is being used in this particular manner. So when you entertain that thought, it puts you in a nice state of mind, so that whatever you're eating, of course there is karma associated with what you're eating, whether it is vegetable food or meat, whatever you're eating, there is some karma, because you're using some other object that has come from Brahman to sustain yourself. So there is some karma. But when there is respect, when there is love, when there is that sense of God is doing through me, I'm an instrument, when that sense is reinstilled, that basically uh, reduces the karmic footprint of what you're doing. And also, in the long run, it encourages good behavior. In other words, if you look at food as Brahman, if you look at the food with respect, you don't overuse, you don't waste food. You don't basically buy much more than you need and then throw away food like people do these days. You basically use whatever is really necessary for your sustenance, your survival. So just this example of eating food, when you turn it into a ritual, it basically creates a certain feeling inside your mind, certain bhava inside your mind. And it results in a more purposeful action, more meaningful action, that results in a better harmony in the whole world. So like this, I'm just talking about food here, right? Not just doing a puja to God. Like this, the Hindu way of looking at your life is every action that you do is an offering to the divine. And the object of your action also is divine. And the subject of your action, which is basically you, is also divine. So you instill that feeling at the back of your mind in all your actions. It results in a better state of mind, a more focused state of mind. So whatever action you are doing, whether it is killing somebody in a war, killing your enemy in a war, or whether eating food, or whether teaching some student. Again, when you're teaching a student, you don't think the student is inferior, I am superior, I am great. You don't think along those lines. You think the student I am teaching to is Brahman. I am Brahman. The knowledge I am disseminating is Brahman. So when you have that sacred sense, you feel very, very sattvic. And that sattva results in better focus in what you're doing. And also your actions will be more purposeful. So, by the way, this is not just unique to Hinduism. Before the modern religions of Kali Yuga came and overtook all the religions, there were various pagan religions in Europe. There were various religions in South America, North America, Australia, etc. All these native religions are very similar. I will not be surprised if they were all related in the old days, and then after a major war, basically the world was separated into multiple islands of culture and evolved separately. Because if you look at the Native Americans of US, of Canada and USA, when they eat food, whether it is vegetables or whether it is meat, they basically pray to that. If they kill a buffalo and eat it, they think of buffalo as a form of the divine. They pray to it before they eat. So this kind of ritual prayers, the exact words you use, the exact procedure that you use is secondary. What is primary is to have that sense of sacred, to have that sense of I'm an instrument of the divine, and I'm doing what I need to do in this world in a purposeful and meaningful way. That really is the key. So that sense we try to invoke in all our actions. That is why the word for ritual in Sanskrita is karma, as in nitya karma or karma kanda, not some other word. Karma is simply action. So rituals are various actions. Now, there are certain rituals apart from converting daily activities into rituals, into sadhana, into karma. You basically sit down and pray to God, you meditate, or you do a homa. All these rituals, again, these are specifically devised so that you form the connection to the divine. When you form that connection to the divine in your mind, when your mind is thinking of divine as the door at all times, and whatever you are doing sees you as an instrument, when your mind is getting used to that, it's not very easy when you are doing something, when you are arguing with somebody, or when you're fighting with somebody, when you are teaching somebody. It's not always easy to think that God is acting through me. I'm a mere instrument in what you're doing. So you basically set aside some time in your day when you try to form that connection with the divine, and you try to see the divine as the divine, and the will of the divine as the main force behind your existence, behind all of your actions. So when if you set aside some time, that habit gets instilled in your mind, and when that gets instilled, even when you're doing other things, that stays with you, that attitude stays with you. So the sadhana that you do, the rituals that you do, are for creating certain state of mind, certain attitude, and making it very natural to you, so that rest of the day also you keep that attitude with you. And that is really the focus of making spiritual progress and executing your dharma in this world, and finally, hopefully, getting moksha. So from that perspective, the sadhanas that are given by rishis are for creating that attitude. Now, talking about meditation, many people think that just sitting and meditating is superior. But the thing is, if you don't have focus, even in meditation, you are trying to focus on something, whether it's the sound of a mantra, or it's a concept, it's the form of a god, or it's a particular light, whatever you are trying to focus on, you basically need that concentration of your mind. And if that's not there, you're just mechanically doing it. So unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this, but for many people, when they meditate, meditation is also a ritual. Whereas somebody who's actually eating food and thinking that this is Brahman, I am Brahman, and the process of eating Brahman, he may actually have more bhava in his mind. His sense of surrender to the divine may be higher, that his ritual of eating with a particular process may actually be very enlightened. Whereas somebody who's doing meditation and thinking that he's very enlightened, he may be just mechanically engaging in a ritual, so to say.
Some very, very interesting points here. First thing is how a sense of sacred pervades karma and sadhana. And of course, that brings us to the importance of using these words. Immediately, it takes on a certain significance that the word ritual lacks. In fact, I think the difference becomes karma or sadhana becomes a meaningful activity, and ritual, when you call it a ritual, it remains meaningless in most situations. So that's really wonderfully explained.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's an action. Karma means action, and sadhana means accomplishment. It's an action. It's an action to accomplish something. So whatever actions we are doing them to accomplish certain thing. The process of eating is to give you some energy so that you can sustain yourself. But at the same time, the real sadhana there is to think that you're just an instrument. This is all the will of God. So the really having that sense of sacred pervade your being, pervade your actions, pervade your thinking process, and be with you all the time is really the key. Now, let me give an analogy. Suppose I put a sandalwood paste, or suppose I light an agarbatti, an incense stick here. So there will be a lot of smell here. And after that withers away, through the day, some smell will remain, but slowly that smell will become less and less. Similarly, when somebody is spending some time, either in meditation or in a puja, trying to connect with the divine and trying to imbibe the sense of sacred within one's being, one will reach a peak during that process. And then rest of the day, as he or she goes through the daily activities, it slowly withers away. Now, the thing is, if you spend enough time and create enough peak, it will last the whole day. So that is the purpose. In the old days, people spent a lot of time, a couple of hours every day doing sadhana, so that the state of mind and the sense of sacred and the sense of Ishvara pranidhana, which means surrender to the divine, surrender to the divine will. That basically, even though it started slowly decaying through the day, it was still active for the entire day. And I want to give one more analogy here. Some people forget about meditation. As I said, meditation can also be just mechanical and ritual for somebody who doesn't have a focus. And to get the focus, certain practices do help. But some people say, you don't even need to meditate. You just realize that you are God, yourself. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All is verily Brahman. Just realize it and you are all set. Why do you need to do anything? Why do you need to do meditation? Why do you need to do rituals, etc.? There is a nice analogy given in the Upanishads. Here, the tension really is between gnana and karma, wisdom and action. So, people who are into Vedanta, not all, but some people who have half-baked understanding of Vedanta, they focus more on the gnana and de-emphasize karma. They think that karma binds you, karma is lowly, whereas gnana liberates you, gnana is higher. But there is a story given in the Upanishads. The story is not story, an analogy, a metaphor. Somebody who has only gnana but does not engage in karmas to instill that gnana and perfect that gnana, he is like analogous to a person with eyes but no legs. He's basically handicapped. He can't walk, and he's stuck in a forest, and he can see a forest fire approaching, but he can't run away from it. The actions are basically like legs, and the wisdom gnana is like the eyes. On the other hand, somebody who just keeps doing karma regularly, every day he does the prescribed nicha karmas, but doesn't have the gnana that all is God, all is the work of God, I'm just an instrument. And this instrument, whatever it basically does, it will reap the fruits of that over time. So the only way to overcome that is realize that gnana. If somebody just keeps doing karmas, he's like a blind person who has legs, can run. He's running very fast and furiously, but he may be running towards the forest fire and may get burned. So what you really need is, you need both the eyes to see the forest fire and the legs to run away from it. There is another beautiful analogy given in Yoga Vasishtam by Vasishta Maharshi to Lord Sri Rama. He taught to Bhagavan Sri Rama the essence of Vedanta in Yoga Vasishtam. The analogy is, just like a bird cannot fly into the sky with just one wing, it needs to flap both the wings to fly into the sky. The bird of individual self, in order to fly into the infinite sky of infinite self, needs both the wings of gnana and karma. Gnana or wisdom is like one wing, and karma or actions is like the other wing. So you need to basically imbibe your actions with wisdom. You can't avoid actions. As long as you are alive, there will be actions. But you have to imbibe those actions with the wisdom. So from this perspective, just thinking that I am Brahman doesn't really give you that sense of sacred. It doesn't imbibe your actions with that sense of sacred. Irrespective of what is happening, what you are forced to do, what you want to do, and what you are able to do. The confluence of what you are able to do and what you want to do is what you end up doing. So whatever you are doing, thinking of the divine as the doer and doing it with your best focus and best ability, but at the same time, no attachment to the fruits of it, and thinking that God is doing through me, whatever comes is God's will. Basically, doing that with that attitude is the key. So that basically comes with sadhana. As you do more sadhana, as you do more actions with that spirit, it will become more and more instilled in your psyche, in your very way of thinking. So from that perspective, spending some time in sadhana, whatever sadhana it is, spending some time in sadhana on a regular basis is very important. And this is where Hinduism differs from many religions. Many religions have one way, and they say, this way or highway, my way or highway. You do this, that's it. Hinduism, on the other hand, or rather Sanatana Dharma, on the other hand, has infinite paths. Rishis have taught so many different ways to connect with the divine.
So, what are the different kinds of sadhana? Since we said that, rituals is not the proper word, so we'll start using sadhana. So, what are the
Perfect.
different kinds of sadhana? There is puja, there is yajna, there is homa, there is havan. So, how are these all different from each other?
So there are many sadhanas given. Bottom line is, every karma you do can be turned into a sadhana. Whether it is eating food or teaching somebody or managing a team in a technology company, whatever you are doing is an action. So you can turn it into a sadhana by trying to invoke the sacred sense of God in what you're doing. Now, specifically, apart from the regular actions turning into sadhana, time is spent specifically focusing on connecting with the divine. Let us use that word from now onwards for sadhana. Even though every action can be turned into a sadhana, let us focus on specific actions that form a connection with the divine. Now, yagnas, homas, havans are one sadhana that people know. There, you are invoking the divine in the fire element, and you're trying to form a connection with the divine through fire, through the element of fire. The other is the element of earth. You have a vigraha, a murti. Again, the English word is idol, but idol has a lot of connotations. When you use the word murti, it stands for certain qualities, something that has certain qualities. So that's a different thing than just using the word idol. So when you use a murti or a vigraha, that basically is usually made of some metal or clay or basically some earth element. So there you're trying to imagine that there is God in that particular object, in that particular murti, and you are trying to form connection with the divine by making some offerings and trying to imagine God, imagine the divine in that particular object. So that is the earth element. The other is, you can have a kalasha, a pot with water, and then you can invoke devata in that, and you can do pujas, various services. So those are basically fire, earth, and water elements. And you can also connect through the air element. This is basically pranayama. When you can spend time doing pranayama, and when you do pranayama, whenever you're breathing in, think that the divine who's filling the whole universe, he's coming inside you as that air. And then when you are leaving the exhaling, imagine that all the negative qualities inside you are being purified and being expelled from your being by the divine. So if you keep imagining like that and keep breathing in, breathing out, that's another sadhana. And that basically is using the element of air. And finally, the element of space. Space means that which is there everywhere, but not specifically present in a particular place. All molecules and atoms, if you break them down, in the end, it's all vacuum. So that is space. So invoking the divine in the space and connecting with divine through the element of space, akasha, is very difficult. But that is really dhyana. Dhyana is not just chanting a mantra, as people think. Dhyana is perceiving the divine everywhere. And when you sit for meditation, and when you really get lost, when your mind really gets focused, then you reach the state of dhyana. So that basically is through the element of space. And out of these, the element of space is very difficult to connect to, because it's so subtle. And even air is subtle. In comparison, fire, earth, and water are less subtle. They have a clearer form. So something that you can see, something that you can perceive, something in which you can visualize the divine. So they are easier for most people than the elements of space and air. In general, the grosser the element is, the easier for us to connect with it, because our mind is very gross. If our mind is very subtle, extremely subtle, then perhaps just jhana is sufficient for us. So And out of all these, the earth and water elements are more difficult than the fire element, because fire, that quality of fire is, it is alive. It acquires a life of its own once you start it. So, and it is kinetic, it is dancing, it is basically moving. So imagining God in the fire is much easier than imagining God in a murti or in a kalasha. So that is why in most religions, not only in Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, but many ancient religions, worship of God through fire, connecting to God through the element of fire has been very popular. Fire ritual does exist in almost every religion: North America, South America, Australia, India, Japan, etc. So, but the thing is, our rishis taught all these because different people have different aptitude. Loko bhinna ruchihi. What is good for goose is not good for gander. So, you give all these options. Somebody may be scared of fire. Even though fire is very efficient, somebody may not like fire. Okay, take a murti and worship the murti, an idol. And if you somebody likes water, likes being near water, take a kalasha and imagine that God is in the kalasha and do various services to that kalasha. Like there is a living person there, you basically make various offerings. You do various services like washing hands, washing feet, giving drinking water, giving bath, giving nice clothes, etc. You imagine that it's a being, and you make that connection with the divine through the element of water. And if somebody likes meditating near big body of water, go to a river, go to a pond, a lake, an ocean, sit next to it and meditate. You try to think that there is God near you, that lake or the river is God, and you basically chant the mantra of whatever devata you prefer. You keep chanting that mantra and believe that there is God near you, and God is going to clean your consciousness, clean your thoughts, and imbibe your actions with a sense of purpose from now onwards. So with that sense, basically, you can meditate near a big pool of water. I know somebody who actually goes near volcanoes and meditates. He likes fire element. He meditates near volcanoes. Like this, there are many ways. And our rishis never said this is the best way, this is the only way. As I said, basically, homa or havan has some efficacy because of the power of fire. But at the same time, they never said thou shalt do only this. They always gave options. So all these are relevant. What is important is you have to make a connection. When you do that ritual, when you do that sadhana, when you do that karma, you start feeling something divine, something sacred outside of you and eventually inside you. And that sacredness should basically take over you, take over your existence. And when it may take over for a short time and then it may slowly dissipate. But the thing is, over time, it will remain with you for longer times. So that is the most important thing. And I just want to say add one line of thought here. Because I'm putting the focus on bhava, enjoying what you're doing, feeling what you're doing. That is indeed the key. There is a story in one of the Upanishads. There was a Brahmana who was doing a ritual every day, an elaborate ritual to a murti every day. And a peasant who did not know much Shastra, he was always in the area. So he would observe the Brahmana, and he would imagine in his mind that he's also doing the same thing. He imagines that he's washing God's body, he's giving a bath, he's giving nice clothes. He would imagine in the mind. And in the end, the Brahmana goes to a lower loka, and this peasant goes to a higher loka. And the Brahmana asks God, why did I come here? That guy did nothing. He was just watching me do the ritual. And I did your puja every day without fail. He said, you did it mechanically. You did not feel what you're doing. You also had a sense of pride that you're doing something special. Whereas that person, he actually imagined, even though he was not physically doing it, he imagined it. So the point here is, the physical objects in the sadhana that you do are proxies. They enable certain bhavas in your mind, which are difficult to create without those. So you use those proxies to create the bhava. But when you say snanam snapayami, om Sri Mahaganpatim snapayami, and you show water to Mahaganapati murti and then put it in the Arivannam, you actually pause for a second and feel that you are giving him a bath. The God is enjoying it. So that basically, that bhava in what you are doing is very, very important. But at the same time, I want to make another key point. If you say that you have to enjoy what you're doing, the nature of people who are stuck in tamas is to do nothing, because tamas is a state of laziness. So you will say that I'll just sit in the couch and watch TV and I enjoy it. So you have to force yourself in the beginning. You can't just say I will enjoy. But the thing is, eventually you have to also start enjoying what you're doing. So there is a balance between force and push, and also pull back and enjoy. So there should be a balance in any activity in life, not only sadhana. In any activity in life, you should be pushing yourself, but at the same time, you should not be pushing yourself too much. You should also be enjoying what you're doing. So initially you should push, but eventually you should start enjoying it. If somebody may enjoy doing lot of upcharas, lot of services. Imagine that there is God, there is actual Ganpati in that murti, and do various services, offer food, offer tambula, offer various things. Whereas somebody may enjoy chanting the mantra of Ganpati more and thinking that Ganpati is in front of me and he's accepting this mantra and he's blessing me. So accordingly, somebody may pick a 64 service puja, somebody may just pick a 5 service puja, and at the end of the 5 services, he may just chant the mantra. He may just basically meditate. But the thing is, thinking that there is God in front of him or her will enhance that meditation. So that way, that the sadhanas, the pujas you do can do also encompass dhyana, do also encompass meditation. Whether you do a homa or a puja, at the end you do meditate. But the thing is, before meditation, you are invoking the divine near you in a particular object, and you are giving some services, offering some services, and then you are thinking of God. So that basically provides a context, and it makes it easier to perceive that sacredness. So my point was, some people like longer procedures and shorter meditation, and some other people may like longer meditation and shorter procedures. So Rishis never said this is the only way. They gave all the options: Panchopachar Puja, Shorshopachar Puja, Chatushrashopachar Puja. You basically pick what works for you, what you are able to enjoy more, and you can do. So that is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. It's a very logical system, and also it's a very open-minded system, and it's a very broad system. It has a lot of depth, also a lot of breadth. So you're not restricted to one particular way of doing things.
You mentioned a connection with the 5 elements, and we have the freedom to approach the divine through any one of these means. Now, when it comes to the air and the space, like the pranayama and the dhyana that you mentioned, it is understood that it's a solitary activity. People do it individually. But when it comes to the either the puja or the homa, there is this fear of making a mistake. And so people often think it is best left to a professional to do a puja or a havan, right? I mean, there is a fear of making a mistake and having something untoward happen. Now,
Yeah.
what would you say to that?
Couple of things. First of all, think of worship of God, whether it is worshipping God in a murti or kalasha or havan or some other form. Think of that as expressing your love to your mother and father, forming your connection to your mother and father, getting close to your mother and father than something else. And when you look at it from that prism, you realize that if you express your love to your father and mother in a using slightly wrong procedure or wrong words, they won't be offended. They love you. Even when they seem to punish you, it is for your own good. So first of all, there's no need to be scared when you're doing puja. This comes from one particular misconception, because there are certain procedures that were devised by certain great yogis to get specific results. In the Tantra Shastra, there are certain procedures that you do with certain substances, certain counts of mantras, and certain result will come. And when you do those for specific results, for example, somebody being attracted to somebody else, like that, or somebody being killed, somebody being restrained. So when you are doing for specific results, these are called prayogas. So when you do these different prayogas, if you make a mistake, it can be disastrous. But at the same time, if you are doing sadhana just to improve yourself, just to imbibe the sense of sacred inside you, so that all the activities you do are more meaningful and purposeful, and you execute your dharma with detachment in the world, and finally becomes free, liberated. If you're doing sadhana for that purpose, you have nothing to be worried about. People conflate these two things. Nishkama sadhana as a nicha karma versus doing sadhana for a particular end result. Again, in terms of analogy, suppose you have a contract with your father. Your father is a big businessman, and there's a contract that you have with your father that after you reach a certain age, he needs to give you a certain amount of money, etc. If you are talking about contracts and lawsuits, even with your parents, you have to be very careful. Make sure that the paperwork is right, everything is perfect, and hide the right liar. Then you basically get the results. On the other hand, if you just want to express your love to your father and mother and just take what they give you, you have nothing to be afraid of. You have no rules that you need to be concerned about breaking, even to a small extent. So keep that analogy in mind. And my strong suggestion is, unless one has a competent guru, and unless one knows what one is doing and why one is doing, one should stay away from kamya karma anyway. A karma where a particular result is desired. And those are valid only when it is for a dharmic purpose and one knows exactly what one is doing. What I suggest to all normal people is, of course, all of us are normal people. As a matter of fact, what I suggest to all people is, just stick to nishkama karma. Do it as your offering to the divine, offering to the universe, and you will be richly rewarded. Sometimes what we think we need is not what is good for us. You may think that getting XYZ is the best thing for you, but that may ruin you also sometimes. If you just leave it to God to give you what he wants to give you, or what she wants to give you, that is the best. So from that perspective, be fearless, pick the right sadhana for you, and do it sincerely, and don't worry about making mistakes. And one more thing, at the end of every puja, you say mantrahinam, kriyahinam, bhaktihinam, janardana, et pujatam maya deva, paripurnam tadastute, which means if there was a error in the mantra, in the action, in the attitude, etc., please forgive me. And when you say that, be very sincere. Say that, please forgive me. I'm a fool. I'm just trying to connect with you. You are infinite. You are so subtle and at the same time infinite. I am trying to connect with you. Please bless me and shape my attitude. If you have that spirit, sooner or later, God will become kind and God will bless you.
Okay, so then this brings us to the question of Adhikara. So, I mean, from what you have said, it's like Adhikara is there for everyone. Then why exactly do we need to talk about Adhikara? And is it important to do sadhana?
Well, the regular actions everybody does, and the need to imbibe those with a sense of sacred everybody has. So forming connection with the divine, everybody can do, everybody needs to do. But the thing is, there are certain misconceptions that came in Kali Yuga. First of all, people say that people only of certain varnas can do this. Not all varnas can do this. But the thing is, varnas in the old days are different from what they are now. Especially during the British times, they have been really, really corrupted. In the old days, your varna is basically, it is your aptitude. If you look at Vishwasnama Stotram, it says, Vedantako Brahmanasyat Satyo Viji Bhavet Vaishyo Dhanasamruddhasyat Shodra Sakmavapmayat. So one who is interested in Vedanta, in the wisdom, pure wisdom of God, is Brahmana. That is what Brahmana gets by chanting Vishwasnama. Similarly, Kshatriya, he gets victory over others, because Kshatriya is somebody who is protecting others around him. Brahmana is one who is pursuing God. And Vaishya is one who is pursuing, figuring out where things are cheaper, and moving things around for the benefit of the world, for dharma. The way the varnas are defined in Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm sorry to say this, but most people, irrespective of their birth varna, are actually chandalas today. The exact definition of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Chodra given in Bhagavatam by Sri Krishna, if you use it, most people are chandalas. So forget about the varna. In the old days, this was based on your attitude and what you pursue in life. Is it wisdom, or is it strength and protecting others, or is it financial gains and helping people by moving goods, or just serving others? So that was the definition. And Vishwamitra was born as a Kshatriya but became a Brahmana later, a Brahmarshi. And Valmiki, we have so many examples. So it was a very dynamic thing in the old days. So, but the bottom line is, whether you want wisdom, whether you want success, whether you want wealth, whether you want just physical comforts, all of them will come when your actions towards them are imbibed with the sense of sacred and more focused. So in order for your actions to be more focused and with a better sense of purpose, you need that connection with the divine. Whether your action is for money or success over enemies or just physical comforts or wisdom or knowledge of God, whatever your purpose is, whether you're Brahmana or Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra, either by birth or by your aptitude, by your nature, still sadhana is important. So you can do sadhana. You can do, irrespective of what your birth varna is, you can do sadhana. And as a matter of fact, if somebody does sadhana and becomes more and more detached, that person, if somebody becomes actually more dedicated to God and more detached, that person, irrespective of the birth varna, may end up becoming Brahmana in the long run. So what I humbly recommend is, forget about Adhikara. If you have sincere desire to connect with the God and sincere desire to play a more purposeful role in the world in a dharmic way, if you have that desire, that itself is Adhikara. Desire to basically lead a purposeful life, a dharmic life in this world, and pray to the divine to basically establish in your being so that your actions are more purposeful. That desire, that spirit itself is Adhikara. All other Adhikaras are meaningless. Now, as for women doing it, some people basically think that women cannot do, but this is wrong. In Ramayana, there is a clear reference that Kausalya, when Rama goes to see her, she's doing her daily Havan with Veda mantras, and then Rama waits, so and so on. There are several pramanas, and there is nothing that really says that women can do. This is really the influence of certain religions that influenced Sanatana Dharma in the last millennium. They had other ways of looking at women, so that thinking was basically superimposed on Sanatana Dharma. Women can certainly do any rituals, including homa or havan.
So in the modern world, many people have lost the chain of tradition.
Right.
If it has not been handed down in their families, can they still learn how to perform either pujas or a havan?
Yes, they can absolutely learn from various acharyas and gurus that are available, whoever they are drawn towards. And if they don't have access to anyone, see, we have various mantras coming from rishis. For example, Durga Saptasati. It is from Markandeya Purana, and Markandeya Rishi taught it. Gayatri Mantra, Vishwamitra taught it. So in the old days, they were only transmitted orally. They were not written down. But with the advent of Kali Yuga, God was kind. God realized that various paramparas are going to be broken in this Kali Yuga. So the tradition of all these writings have come. So if you chant, for example, Durga Saptasati or Saptasloki, think of Markandeya Rishi as the Guru, because it did come from him to you. And similarly, if you are interested in the Gayatri Mantra, and if you have the text from a book, you chant it and think of Vishwamitra as the Guru. So when the knowledge is there in written form, you can benefit from it. It is not necessary that you have to get from a guru. And one small point here, if you get diksha from a guru gives you in your ear, it is kind of like a millionaire father opening an account in his son's name with a $1 million balance, starting balance. So it is good for you if you get a mantra from a from an accomplished guru who has done a lot of sadhana with that mantra, that can help you, that can give you a head start. But it's no guarantee of success. A rich father's son may start a bank balance with $1 million, but gamble all of it, and he may become a pauper later. On the other hand, a normal person, he may start a bank balance with just $1, and he may slowly grow it and become a billionaire one day. So if you do enough sadhana over time, that will put you in a good stead. Of course, if you get mantra from a guru, excellent. But if you don't, it's not a reason for not doing sadhana. Think of the original Rishi from whom the mantra came. Think of the guru as the Rishi, and try to form connection with the Rishi and the Devata sincerely.
When we do pujas, there are many questions that come to mind, like if we are doing a puja with a murti, what should be the size of the murti, or if it's a kalasha, what should be the size of the kalasha. So where do we get all this information, and where do we get the objects themselves, for doing these pujas?
First of all, the object that you get, if you buy it in a store, is just an object when you buy it. There is no life in it. There's no prana in it. So it is slowly over time. Of course, if a great sadhaka comes and does prana pratishtha in it, that's a separate matter. But for most people, that's not realistic. So let's assume that it's just a murti that you bought in a store. So you basically every day, you sincerely believe that in that murti, Ganapati is there, or Lakshmi is there, or Vishnu is there, or Rudra is there. You sincerely believe. With that belief, slowly prana will start forming in it. That energy slowly starts manifesting there. And over time, over years, whether you believe it or not, there will be energy there. There will be enough Shakti accumulating. It is kind of like a piggy bank. The murti is like a piggy bank. A kid, he's basically putting some money, a few coins every day. He may not be a millionaire, but he's putting a few coins every day, and maybe occasionally 5 rupee, 20 rupee note. And over time, it may accumulate to a large amount. And when in a time of need, it may actually rescue one. Similarly, the murti that you are buying, it is your responsibility to fill the piggy bank with money. Similarly, that murti with Shakti. So every day when you do sadhana, sincerely believe that murti has the divine in it. And the sadhana that you're doing is being enjoyed by the divine, and the divine, as a blessing in return, he's filling your existence with divinity. So have that sense and sincerely do it. So over time, that Shakti will manifest there. And now, regarding the size, etc. And by the way, for murti, you can use a clay murti, you can use a gold murti, you can use a silver murti, you can use copper, you can use bronze, you can use the panchaloha, which is very popular in South India, basically a combination of 5 metals. There are various options, but I strongly recommend not using modern plastic, etc. These objects, plastic, rubber, these are not really auspicious objects. These are not good for the world. Let me put it that way. So use biodecomposable things like metals and clay, etc. And try to, but the key is, it is up to you to create God in that murti. If you sincerely do it every day, it will accumulate. In a particular day, one day you may not do much, but over time that accumulates. And regarding the size, there are some pramanas in the Agama Shastra, like some pramanas say it should be Angushtamatra in a home. If it's not a temple and a home, it should be Angushtamatra, which is your thumb, basically. The size of your thumb, it should be that size or less. But again, the thing is, it is kind of like saying the piggy bank should be a small size, because if it's larger, you may as well start a bank account. Put it in a bank instead of in a piggy bank, because it's not safe. Similarly, if it is in a murti in your home, if you accumulate too much Shakti, basically that may be exploited by others who come to your house, etc. Just like somebody may break your piggy bank and take the money. So if it's too much money, put it in a bank. Similarly, you establish a temple, etc. With if you have a lot of Shakti. So that is the logic behind. See, this is why I said Sanatana Dharma is very logical. It's not really arbitrary, and it's not like because I say so. There is a structure and logic behind everything. So the thumb rule is to use the size of thumb. But the thing is, it's not absolute. If you are comfortable with it, you can have a larger idol. Of course, over time, a lot of Shakti may accumulate in it, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong in it. It's not necessary that you have to open a bank account once you have more than $1,000 or something. You can still use a big piggy bank. It's up to you, basically, whatever you are comfortable with. But the thing is, one thing is, one who knows less is actually sometimes happier, because once you know more, because you are using it as a thumb rule and you may not understand the essence of it, the spirit of it, you may go by the letter, it may bog you down, it may bug you, you may feel worried. So if you have a big idol in your house and it makes you worried, it's not worth it, because whenever you do puja, you're worried that I'm doing something wrong. If it's at the back of your mind, that's not good. So my general thumb rule is, if something makes you uncomfortable, don't do it. On the other hand, somebody else, he may not know the rule. He may have a 1 foot idol and he may be happy. He may be sincerely forming a relation to it. And who knows, that idol may end up going into a temple one day also. Who knows? So it is perfectly fine. So my suggestion is, don't think too much. Whatever idol you have, whatever murti you have access to, worship the murti sincerely and don't be too scared. But at the same time, if you can't overcome that fear at the back of your mind because people around you are scaring you, unfortunately, this is a thing in Kali Yuga. People don't do and don't let others do. And there is a lot of scaremongering rather than giving confidence and enthusiasm. So if that's the case, it's not worth it. Then basically get a smaller idol that fits the rule that you know.
So you mentioned Shastras prescribing certain rules.
Yeah.
Now there are 2 points that I'd like to know about. First is, what about any particular timing to do sadhana, or is there like a regular schedule that is prescribed by Shastras?
That's a great question. So for doing sadhana to connect with the divine, the best times are in the morning and in the evening, sunrise time and sunset time, around about 48 minutes before or after. Basically, a couple of ghadiyas and ghatis before and after sunrise, and also before and after sunset. These are very, very auspicious times. And in the old days, people just would get up early in the morning, and in the around sunrise time, they would offer arghyas to sun. They would do a small fire ritual. They will spend some time in japa, chanting a mantra. They will do tarpanas, daily tarpanas. So people were doing all these rituals in the morning usually. But the thing is, in modern days, people get up late and they are busy with work in the morning. So it is fine to do in the evening. These 2 times are very, very auspicious. But in general, if neither of these times works for you, it is fine to do any time. Suppose you have to get up early and take a train to go to work, and you can't do in the morning. And by the time you come home, let's say it's 8 o'clock in the evening. Yeah, you can do it 8:30 and then you can eat your dinner. That's fine too. When Shastras say this is give a specific time, they're not saying this is the only time. That time is slightly better. So they're telling you better ways to optimize what you're doing. But the thing is, instead of not doing at all, do it sometime or the other. And one small note here, even though people think that the sunrise and sunset time are the best times for sadhana, that is true, not untrue. But there is a concept of inner day and inner night. Every day, if you at any time, left nostril or right nostril will be, one of them will be stronger. You are breathing in and breathing out mostly through one of the nostrils at any time. And it changes roughly every couple of hours, every 1.5 hours or so. So roughly, and there is a transition time when both of them are equally open, and then it changes to the other nostril. And then after an hour and a half, basically both of them are open for like half hour, then another 1.5 hours, the other one is open. So these are like the inner day and night. The right nostril is solar channel, so that's the day, and that basically controls the push instinct. And the left nostril is the inner night, when that is more open, that is inner night, that is the lunar channel. It is the period of pull back, relax. So these are conducive to certain activities. And for sadhana, the best time is the sandhya time, inner sandhya, when both the nostrils are open. That is basically very conducive to sadhana. So from this perspective, if you realize that if you are free in the evening, let's say long before sunset at 3 p.m., and you realize that both your nostrils are equally open, perhaps you can sit down and do meditation or do a puja. So the thumb rule is daytime, sunrise and sunset time, around that. But if you can find a time when your both nostrils are equally open, that's an even more productive time. Because when the Ida Nadi is more active, your sense of surrender, sense of feeling will be more active. When the Pingal Nadi is more active, the solar channel, your sense of logical thinking, etc., will be more active. And when both of them are balanced, neither logic nor emotion will overpower you, and then Sushumna has a chance of opening, and that is the channel through which you perceive the divine. You form connection with the divine. When the logic and the emotion are both balanced, when intuition and structured and unstructured thinking, when both of them are balanced, that is when you have a better chance, highest chance of connecting with the divine.
Okay, now coming to events and rituals for events. Here I'm using rituals because I think events
Sure.
have become about rituals. So Shastras prescribe a lot of rituals, but today we don't do all of them, and it's become very common to pick and choose. What is convenient and sort of collapse into a 1 day frame, whereas earlier weddings, for instance, if you take an event like a wedding, it used to go on for multiple days, sometimes 3 days, sometimes even 7 days.
Yeah.
Now no one has the time to do it so elaborately. So everything is collapsed into 1 day, one muhurta, something, and so when it's become like this, is there any way to know what is an absolutely must do and what can be expended with, that way, what is optional, and is it okay to do it like this in the first place, or are we really going against Shastras in a very big way by doing this? What is your take on this?
Yeah, great question. Unfortunately, people confuse dharma shastras, what the shastras say, with what customs say. There are a lot of customs, lot of practices that evolve over time for convenience, and they are dependent on this kalpatra. I like to give an analogy. When it comes to connecting with the divine and making spiritual progress, that is kind of like raw grains. And various customs, social customs, are more like cooked grains. In any religion, in any civilization, there is both raw grains and cooked grains. The thing with raw grains is they stay for a long time. They never perish. Similarly, things like you need to connect with divine, divine acts through you. You are instrument of divine. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. These are like raw grains. They never grow old. They never go wrong. They never perish. They are true forever. On the other hand, they are not really useful for many people. Most people cannot eat raw grains and get any energy from it. On the other hand, specific practices that you engage in, like for example, if I say every day you spend 15 minutes in the morning doing homa and 5 minutes in the morning doing tarpana, like that, or 30 minutes meditating, that becomes a specific instruction that you can actually use and benefit from. So that is like cooked grain. So cooked grain, they give you energy. They are more useful to people, to society. But the problem with them is they perish after a while. They go bad. So they become stale. So this is the problem with modern religions of Kali Yuga. They are sticking to a lot of stale food. These religions are more focused on cooked grains rather than raw grains. Hinduism, the beauty of Hinduism is it has both raw grains and cooked grains, and a clear awareness among the learned people of what is cooked grain versus what is raw grain. So when you talk about doing a wedding over several days, etc., these are more like cooked grains rather than raw grains. What is really important in the vivaha process is the vadhu and vara, the bridegroom and bride, basically having a sincere commitment to each other and taking that vow in front of Agni, and then Mangal Sudha Dharana, etc. If you look at the mantras, there are certain mantras that are very, very essential. And also there are pramanas from the old days when certain important weddings happened in a very short duration with the basic minimum required procedures. So let us not go through what is the basic minimum required here. But the thing is, what I will say is, there is basic minimum required, but the thing is, there is a lot of stuff added over time. And that tends to happen. When somebody adds a particular step because it feels nice, nobody wants to drop it. People keep adding things, so rituals become very long. I want to give a small analogy here. This is not just for wedding, but in general for rituals, various sadhanas or various karmas. There used to be a Brahmana who used to do homa every day. And then his Shishya used to observe him and learn what mantras he was chanting, what he was doing while chanting the mantra. So he learned how to do homa by observing his guru. And his guru who used to have a cat. And the cat, because if it jumps around, it can cause a fire accident, he used to tie it in a corner of the house. So the Shishya noted it. And one day Guru passed away. And Shishya wanted to keep this practice alive. So he wanted to do what the Guru was doing. So he said, okay, I will start doing homa every day from tomorrow, like my Guru used to do. He didn't have a cat. He went and bought a cat in the store and started tying it in the same corner and doing the ritual. Now the thing is this cat needed? No, because he had it. He basically made the rule of tying it. If you don't have a cat, good, don't buy a cat. But he did not know. This is the problem. When you don't know Sanskrita, when you are not enlightened enough intellectually and also spiritually, you confuse the letter with the spirit. There are many times I see these days, people don't understand the spirit. They torture the spirit while following the letter. So it is very important to follow the spirit rather than the letter. So from that perspective, lot of processes that are done today are not really necessary. So it is fine to make some trade-offs. Let me give an analogy in terms of the puja itself. Forget about the wedding. If you do a puja, people take a sankalpa, the place that you are in, the time, what month it is, what year it is, what ayana it is, etc. So if you take a long sankalpa, that itself can come to 5 minutes. And if you are doing a sadhana, a puja for 2 hours or 3 hours, like people used to do 200 years back or 100 years back, 5 minutes sankalpa makes sense. But if you are doing a homa or puja just for 30 minutes or 15 minutes, you don't have enough time in the modern world, then you have to make a trade-off. You don't need a long sankalpa. Out of 15 minutes, you can't use 5 minutes for sankalpa. You just cut it to half minute. And really, do you think that God doesn't know where you are, what time you are living in, who you are, what gotra you are, what is your name, what you want? Do you think God doesn't know? God knows everything. This is not for God. This is for yourself. This is to keep the tradition alive and to know all these details. You basically make them part of the sankalpa. So it is perfectly fine, a good trade-off to cut that process and just say, for the pleasure of God and for my spiritual progress, I'm doing it. Simple. And even if you don't say explicitly, if there's a desire at the back of your mind when you're doing it, it automatically becomes a sankalpa. God will take that into account when he gives you result for what you are doing. So like that, basically, this is just an example. The specifics always depend on the Desakalpatra. The generics are what I called raw grains earlier, and the specifics are what I norms influence the specifics. But the generics are more important. So what I suggest is, it is perfectly fine to make trade-offs and pick what is essence. But when you are not confident of what is essential, what is the spirit and what is the letter, just follow whatever is realistic for you to follow. And secondly, even if you know that a particular step is not really necessary, it is just added by people, it's not really meaningful, still, if there is a guilt at the back of your mind when you don't do it, you better do it. But hopefully over time, as the divine becomes stronger inside you, various guilts will drop and you'll be able to do more freely and enjoy what you're doing without guilt.
So Narasimha Rao Garu, this has been a very enlightening and in many ways a reassuring conversation. And this being a parenting podcast, I'd like to ask you if you have any specific message or advice for the parents and children who are listening.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It is a great idea to instill the basic concepts of Sanatana Dharma in the kids And it is natural, given the Desikala Patra, given the times that we are living in, for kids to be a little inquisitive and also questioning. Like our generation, in my generation, we accepted whatever parents told us, and later we realized what is the meaning of all this. But they will ask why is a very common question in the current generation. So don't basically try to overpower them saying because I say so. That will not work going forward. This is the age when people want to question. So try to understand the reasoning behind what you are telling them, and keep things simple. Instead of keeping things very complicated, if you keep things simple, they're easier to follow and also easier to understand and explain. So keep things simple. And one more thing is, like I said earlier, you need to strike a balance between force and enjoyment. So without forcing oneself, one will not do anything meaningful in life. All great things happen after some forcing in the beginning. But at the same time, you have to cut some corners and make some trade-offs so that you are also enjoying it eventually, sooner or later. Hopefully not too late. So from that perspective, if children protest, still force them a little bit. Don't be too lenient. Force them into certain practices and make sure that those practices are simple enough and meaningful for them. So that is one thing. And if children are not comfortable with a long ritual, keep it very short. They can just take a murti, imagine God in it, and do just 5 services, and then just chant a mantra in front of God. Maybe not meditate, not close eyes, keep eyes open, look at the murti, and then chant the mantra a few times. That's good. And teach them various stotras. If a kid, for example, learns Hanuman Chalisa or Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra at a young age, they will not forget. For example, my wife used to have all the children in the neighborhood and teach them Vishnu Sahasranama Stotram, Ganapati Atharasesham, like that basically, various Aditya Hridayam, Hanuman Chalisa, Nama Ramayanam, etc. And they learnt when they were like between 5 and 12 years of age. They still remember it. They haven't forgotten, even though they don't chant them regularly now. What you learn at a young age becomes very imprinted in your mind. So in a time of need, suddenly somebody tells them, chant Hanuman Chalisa, that will help you. That will become an anchor for their existence during troubles, which will invariably happen in life, in modern life. So give them some prayers that they can fall back onto later. And even if they don't understand or question or think this is stupid, that's fine. It is important to sow the seeds. And which seeds become plants and trees and give fruits later, you are not in control. But as parents, it is your job to sow the right seeds. And at the same time, don't overwhelm them with what is unrealistic for them. So keep it simple. Keep it. For example, I told you that my wife taught very young children Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra. Obviously not in one day. Every day, a couple of slokas. So over time, you learn everything. So you basically, but the thing is, key is you have to spend some time with your children. If you want to basically keep looking at internet, YouTube, various social media, because there is enough content on the internet to keep you busy for million lives. I'm not kidding. There is actually enough content to keep one busy for million lives. So you have to basically make some time for kids, and especially at a young age. Don't start when they are teenagers and when they are already rebellious. When they are really young, before 10 years of age, perhaps at 5, 6, 7, like that, at that age, teach them some simple practices, and also try to explain why you are doing it, and that will stay with them. And another thing is, there is something really powerful with fire compared to murtis, compared to kalashas and just meditation, dry meditation. There's something beautiful with fire. When there is a small fire in a small homakunda, you can even use a small bowl and just use some small dry coconut pieces, copra, and light a fire. Compared to murtis and water, etc., there is something beautiful about fire. There's something alive about fire. It is very calming, very purifying. Actually, the Sanskrita word for fire is pavaka, which means purifier. So what I suggest is, if parents get into the habit of doing a small fire ritual, a havana, homa, every day or every weekend, and if they have young children, if they come and sit near the fire and look at the fire and maybe chant a mantra that you teach them, that will really ground them. That will really connect them. They feel something nice. There is something indescribable about fire of a homa. So if parents start doing it, I know many parents who actually do homa and get their children involved. They also come and chant and maybe sometimes make some offerings in the fire, and slowly they will also want to do it. So if they get used to doing a homa every weekend or so, you don't need a lot of equipment. You just use a small bowl for the Havan Kund, and you just use some copra or dry coconut pieces and a few drops of ghee. That's enough. And if children get into the habit of doing this, that will really, really help them. That will really clarify a lot of things in their mind and keep things clean. So something like this can be considered, but definitely do teach your children some shlokas, etc. And do spend some time.
So I think this is the opportune moment to tell our listeners that Narasimha Rao Garu has a website called vedicastrologer.org, where he has put out a lot of do-it-yourself homa manuals.
For 32 devatas. There are simplest manual, simple manual, regular manual like that. What I recommend is just stick to simplest Ganpati Homa when you start, and that can be sufficient really. Just start with a simplest Ganpati Homa with the minimum materials, and see if you like it, and your kids like it.
The best, and the best is this is do it yourself. So it is open to everybody. So we request all our listeners to please go to vedicastrologer.org and check out the homas for yourself.
Can I actually add one point? I know we took a lot of time, but one small point on doing by oneself. There are various rishis that taught various dharma shastras. And for example, in Treta Yuga, Gautama was the authority. In Krita Yuga or Satya Yuga, Manu was the authority. But in Kali Yuga, Parashara is supposed to be the authority for dharma shastra. And there is a book called Parashara Madhaviyam, a dharma shastra text, that explicitly says that a ritual compared to a ritual done by a priest on one behalf, a ritual done by one's own guru or shishya in one's name is 100 times more effective. And compared to that, a ritual done by one's own son or father in one's name is 100 times further more effective. Compared to that, a ritual done by oneself is further 100 times more effective. The bottom line is, if you do a ritual by yourself, it is million times more effective than a ritual done by a purohita. The idea is, in Kali Yuga, the ability of people to identify with somebody else's troubles or somebody else's state of mind and trying to improve it, that ability to connect with others is very limited in Kali Yuga. So from that perspective, you are kind of on your own. And somebody who's more closely connected to you has a better chance of helping you than some outsider. So there is a clear pramana that doing by oneself is the best way. So even if you make mistakes, even if it is suboptimal, still you are better off doing by yourself. So that is why we have manuals, do-it-yourself manuals on my website, and they're completely free. So please feel free to benefit from them. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Narasimha Rao Garu. I mean, it's been a very long conversation, but a very, very deep and profound one also. And I think we have learned so much, and I'm sure our listeners also will take home a lot of important learnings from this conversation. So we thank you for your time, and hope to have you soon, probably with a session on astrology, which is another of your strong points. We'll see when we can do that. But for now, thank you so much. Sorry?
Mother willing, yes. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Namaste. And to our listeners, please do subscribe to us at hinduparenting.substack.com. We are also present on all social media. We go by the handle Hindu Parenting. So please do follow us on whichever social media you find it comfortable to do so. We are also available on podcast platforms like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Please catch us wherever it suits you. So with that, we will end this episode. Until the next time, namaste.